What is happening, everybody? So we're jumping back in here from carrying over from last week. We were talking about lead magnets and sales funnels. And so we went over like a broad arching strategy from last week. And this week we're going to jump in, get our hands dirty, and really kind of like tear some stuff through. So I thought I'd share some real live active funnels that we're using, other people are using, and then we can kind of have open dialogue. And Brett, I know you're a big fan of like the PDFs, the downloadables, the sales, market report type stuff. So it's going to coincide with along lines of that. And so yeah, let's kick it off.
I'm really excited about this simply because last week we talked more about strategy and theory. Mm-hmm. And this week you're going to walk us through kind of a real world scenario. You and I often talk that in sales, regardless if it's mid or whether it's real estate, in sales, it's the go-to thing is just to door knock, cold call, phone prospecting, et cetera, which we all agree it does work.
Yeah.
It's not as effective. It's not as efficient use of time as it once was. And the consumer has changed over time because of the advances of technology. And I find that very little people are utilizing these strategies are the worst kept secret in sales. Everybody knows it. Everybody wants it. Nobody has an idea of how to do it, but they know they should be doing it. But from my opinion, a lot of people look at it more as a novelty, and that they're cheating on the sales gods if they get away from the hardcore traditional. Whereas you and me, we just have the motto of, look, anything that generates a lead, I'm going to do more of that. And
right.
And I think having this real world scenario that you're going to walk us through is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I fully believe that like everybody knows that they should be doing it, right? But there's just that gap of like, you hit that wall or trying to figure out something, the learning curve, whatever it may be, that has presents some challenges for people. So it's like
I'll agree with that, because you don't know what you don't know.
You're right.
Like, if you didn't attend the class, if you didn't go to the webinar, if you didn't talk to the person, and all you're doing is just doing what you've always done, how are you going to know?
Yeah.
But here's one thing though that I think you'll agree with me, Luke, is if you've bought anything on Amazon, if you've searched anything you should know.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I don't think that there's a missing link there of people know that they should be doing it. They need to be doing it.
It's just how. Now, I will agree. There's a lot of noise out there.
Right.
Like, where do you start?
I think that's spot on. Like, it's like this almost paralysis of analysis where there's so many options.
Yep.
And there's so much information, and
do I do social? And if I do social, do I Facebook? Do I do LinkedIn? Do I do TikTok? Oh my gosh, I need to do Google. Do I do search?
Right.
Do I do an organic strategy? Do I do paid strategy? Holy cow, what do I say? Do I talk about this? Do I talk about that? What about mail? My God, why shouldn't I be mailing? There's all kinds of things.
100%, so it's like, so I think that's probably has to do more with it than anything else. It's like you walk into like a desk full of like sticky notes, right? And it's like, call this person, do this file, and it's like you're just like overwhelmed from stuff, right? So it's just
agreed. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it.
Awesome. I'm gonna jump in, share my screen here, and I'm gonna talk through some stuff.
Hold on, let me pause right there, because I want people to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
You did I think it was either a YouTube short? You did something that you walked through how you're using chat GPT to read a transcription and give you an executive analysis. And I responded to you because when you posted that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm using it, but I wasn't using it like that. So right. I want to bring that up because you guys need to go and follow Luke, because he's posting some really cool stuff about the new AI features that'll help you generate content and really just make your life. So now we can go.
Yeah,
I had to give you that plug because that was awesome.
It's funny you bring that up. I'm obviously really, really leaning into that, and I think that more of that's just stuff that I get geeked out on, right? And so it's like how to incorporate that, this stuff, like what's happening, new technology into the mix of everything that we're doing.
Yeah.
And so I'm sharing this here. If you guys are not familiar, if you're following along with this is high level. This is our version of my version of high level agent flywheel. So I'm going to expand on some of this stuff here. So by the way, carrying off on that topic, it's super interesting to see the disparity between that same video on TikTok is almost 100,000 views versus Facebook, like 1,000, Instagram, 13,000.
You have 100,000 views on TikTok?
On that one.
On that one. And versus 1,000 on the other ones?
Versus 1,000 on Facebook. I think Instagram hit 13,000. Anyway, so
why do you think that is? Let's talk about that for a second. Why do you think that is? Is it because, is it the demographics, do you think?
That's where the conversation is currently happening around AI.
Is on TikTok?
Like more people are, that's where the information is being shared. People are really pushing the, testing stuff out, sharing what they're doing. So
are you able to look at those? Are you able to look at the metrics on those 100,000 views and determine the demographics on that?
So I'm sure it can. I mean, I literally just started posting on TikTok. I mean, I just started really leaning into content, like the short form content, probably 30, 60 days ago. I did a little stint back then, but I've always been I've been full board, paid ads, right? And
now you're working more on the organic side.
So part of my, this year is getting more into that organic content and, what we're doing.
But I think you did it right. Most people try out on organic before they go to paid. And the problem is the path takes so long. There's a reason why Meta is has a $500 billion market cap. And it's not because they're not making any money on organic. It has everything to do with ads. So, okay, that's food for thought. Now we should go back, get back on topic.
Topic at hand. Okay, so I'll start off here just talking about this. I can kind of get down into what building out, or we can kind of see where the conversation goes. But first off, this is just a simple landing page where we're talking about bare minimum information, phone number and email. We have our main offer up at the top, step-by-step guide to buying your first home, free download. So we're not asking for a ton of information right here, but this is, clicking people over to the next step. From there, we are taking them into, now this is like a funnel structure for, it can be used for mortgage or for real estate, but there's a couple things here that we're bringing into play on this particular funnel. And you really, at the end of the day, we're talking about this lead magnet as a PDF, but in my opinion, there's a lot of different ways of going about providing value to people. Everybody's going to be on a different stage of their journey. How do we meet them where they're at? How do we nurture them? So here's this funnel itself is going to help kind of cover many different facets of that. So right out of the gate, we're inviting them to join a community, so a separate Facebook group. So they have somewhere else to go from there where they can join. You can connect with them and engage with them on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
Also inviting them to a live webinar where they can jump on here and, it's there's less sales stuff there where they can jump in, attend a Zoom call.
So it's a webinar. It's not a meeting. It's a webinar. So they don't have to feel like they're going in there and they have to talk to somebody they don't know. It's being a fly on the wall.
Yeah. So this is set up just to be group format. So it's not, so it still is removing some of that pressure of hey, I can just come and show up and just listen in or maybe ask questions, but it's not like I'm getting drilled and I'm not getting interrogated for questions when I'm not ready, right? I'm just here to get information and listen in. So less sales pressure there. And then step 3, we got our buyer's guide, free your PDF report. This funnel structure here, you can virtually swap it out for anything you want. If it's
it could be listings, could be mortgage, could be buyers, could be a car, it could be financial services, it could be.
So one of the things we were talking about last week was the or I mentioned was like that, the funnel congruency. So it's like whatever you have your post or your ad or wherever you're bringing them in, just kind of having it all the same as it goes through. So you're going to have something about, getting a free market report on, how to sell your home in Irvine for top dollar in a declining market. Let's, kind of have that message
Sure.
across each one, have the follow-up emails to coincide with that there. And so if you are, so here's, actually, I think I have this linked out to another. So this right here, this is, I can share this with you too. This is a copy of a bunch of different PDFs that we can give out to folks.
Your assets, your deliverables.
Yeah, assets. So these are, this domain here will actually take anybody over to that. If they want to get that, I can share that with everybody. But it's a list of that one there that I was clicking on. It's got a bunch of pre-made templates, checklists, buyer reports, seller reports, pre-made social posts that people can then click on. You can see I use the same funnel structure, that I can build out and share.
There's a 2-page funnel
with clients.
You hit the landing page.
Super simple.
Takes them to the second.
Yep. So from
okay, so here's what we've done so far.
Yep.
You've already have the deliverables made. You have the buyer reports, seller reports, social media, that you already have the deliverables made. We call those lead magnets.
Mm-hmm.
And now what you do is you have the first page, your landing page, which is your sales page, which is how you're going to explain, hey, I'm going to give you this if you give me your contact information. So they give you the contact information and it punches them out to the confirmation page where it pushes them to join your Facebook group. So you can now continue to provide value and to offer services, has a place for them to schedule an appointment with you if they want to take things to the next, actually they want to schedule a webinar with you to deep dive what it is that you just did. And then number 3 is, what was the third step? Is actually download the deliverable. I mean, if anyone's confused about what you do, now, just I want to point out that Luke and I both use Go High Level. We have our own versions, but Go High Level is the platform. The calendar, the landing pages, the email, the text messaging, the video, it's all in one single platform. Remember when we had 10 different things that we had to duct tape together to make that stuff work? And then all of a sudden you get it working, and then in the morning it didn't work again. Something broke.
Yeah, and and
people are still doing that too. So it's not. I shouldn't say that that's gone. There are still people who build on WordPress and have all these different apps that are tied into it and just duct tape a bunch of these services together.
Well, I mean, there's certain there's certain products that are genuinely good, right? And if you've been using something for a long time, it can be hard to migrate off.
Well, I remember when you did something, you were trained, memberships, when they came out with the membership sites, it took you like a year and a half. It took you a year to decide whether or not you were going to try it. And then it took you like 6 months to gradually start moving over. So I get it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good example. I mean, it wasn't the membership product wasn't fully developed, and it was like, I was choosing to provide a better client experience versus, so it was, and then it was like, okay, how do we migrate over, in an orderly fashion and be able to provide people. So, so that's a perfect example of like, hey, this is good, but it's not like, I still expect this a higher level of
I get it,
service to people. So, but now it's, I'm 100% all in. I just went over people how to putting together a new home buyer course for lenders and realtors, to use it too. And you'll get a kick out of this, speaking about AI while we're here. And here's a whole nother kind of little bonus thing as PDF lead magnet. I actually have this stuff up right now. So using ChatGPT, creating a home buyer course, this little slides.ai.io, they have a free version. It seems pretty early on in development, but this is a great product so far that I've found for building out. Literally built this entire Google slide deck from formatting, images, everything.
Slides.ai.io. Look, I'm writing that one down.
And so that one I've been just like I mentioned earlier, geeking out, but here's another way of like creating, like, okay, what do I do? How do I create,
Hey, let me ask you this question,
Mhm.
and then we can get back on subject because we always go off subject. You have your Zoom configured to feed in a transcript to AI so you can get an executive summary. Are you doing it on this one?
Not right now.
Okay. The question I have is that I have a ton of videos that are transcribed. If I copy and paste that into ChatGPT, it says that my content's too long.
Okay.
When you have the automation set up to where it feeds directly into it, do you no longer have that limit? Like if I had an hour-long training?
Yeah, so I am using the paid version of OpenAI Playground. So it is like a variation of the free one. It's still insanely affordable.
Wait a second. OpenAI Playground is the paid version of ChatGPT?
Well, it uses it, and I'm not. This is still kind of
Gotcha. Okay, so they have some sort of, got it. The back end AI is the same. You just have a paid version, which eliminates the limits.
It's less chat oriented, and it's more like it's more for like, hey, I want to train it and teach it to you can model. So for example, like you wanted to say, hey, write me a script in the tone of Brett, of my tone, and then you're able to feed it more information. So you take your emails, you take your scripts, you take your transcribing your meetings, and you can continue to add these inputs, and it will learn more about you. So you have these, like, it's almost kind of like silos where the more information you get it, the more it learns about whatever that specific topic is. And it could be virtually anything, right? But so one of the things that I started off with as an example for like selling stuff, I wanted to, I put in like, write this in the tone of like, David Oglesby, or like, these, sales copy people.
Dan Kennedy.
Like teach it, and you like feed it examples. Like, here's an example of what I'm asking, and then it will learn and learn.
And that's okay. So number one, I don't like using free versions. I know a lot of people like using free versions, and they use it. Because you're always getting the bare bones. Right. I always do a paid version. So now you just told me about that. I wrote it down. I will be purchasing that today.
Yeah, and it's you're if you're following along, and here we go on a whole tangent, but it's that there you get an $18 credit right out of the gate to start off. That should be good for, based off my math, about 700,000 words. So
that's like an encyclopedia.
It's a lot. So you have access to that, but to add to your point, like I went and took that step of adding in my credit card, creating my account, going through all that process, because like if you're playing around with ChatGPT, you don't have an guaranteed access point, right? Sometimes you can get in, sometimes you can't. And it's just
had that experience this morning.
Right.
So I didn't even know about this until today.
You're like, hey, sorry, we're at capacity.
I feel like you've been holding back information on me.
Sorry, I'm in the process of learning everything right now too. It's one of those things. Well, it's such a new one step ahead of.
Look, the things that we're talking about right now for the real estate space, like I said in the beginning, that it's the worst kept secret in real estate. Mm-hmm. What we're talking about are things that we've been doing for more than a decade.
Right.
And now what we're talking about are things that are happening, that are evolving in the here and now. So that's kind of the time span that you and I are talking about on this video is now and 10 years. It's crazy.
That is super crazy. So do you want to jump into like technically building out some of this stuff, do you think, or is that probably a little too much?
Honestly, I think that we did good. So just to kind of reiterate, I know I've already done it. You have your target market, you know who you want to go after, you create ads, you can prospect, you create scripts, you send a postcard, whatever you want to do, you have different ways to attract attention. You send that person to a landing page to get information. On that landing page, they're either going to opt in or they're not going to opt in. They opt in, They get sent their deliverables. You've captured their information. That is now part of your database. You are now putting them into your nurturing campaign. One of the things that we won't go over on this that's a little bit more advanced is that once the main goal here, of course, the goal here is to get that lead and to add them into your database. But really, the primary goal is just to get them to go to the landing page. Because here's what's going to happen. Whether they click on it and you become a lead or not, Luke, what digital marketers do is it adds a cookie to your site. And so now they're going to have ads that come up on Facebook, on Instagram, on blog posts, on Google search, and it's going to follow you around the internet simply because you did that. Now imagine if you're a loan officer, if you're a real estate professional, and you have, I'm going to talk real estate just because that's my space. You have a free seller report, how to sell your home, like Luke said, how to sell your home in Irvine for top dollar, even in declining market. And you send that to a seller and they go to your page and they don't click on it. What's going to happen is that they're going to go on to Facebook, they're going to go on to YouTube, they're going to LinkedIn, they're going to go on to Google search, they're going to see these blog posts, and you are now following them around the internet. So not only does that give you a level of celebrityism, but that is you're continuing to push them to that next step, which is to opt in for your thing, your lead magnet. And once that expires, you put them into a different nurturing campaign. Now you have a different objective. For Luke, that next objective is getting them on the webinar. And then once you get them on the webinar, the next objective is getting them on the phone for an appointment. So it's just having that process in place methodically. And to Luke's point earlier, the sales cycle is the same. It doesn't matter what you're buying, what service, what product. The sales cycle, the buyer's behavior on the sales cycle is always going to be the same. So that's why he's able to just use 2-page funnel and just change out the asset, change out the deliverable. It's awesome. This was I'm gonna go back and transcribe and earmark this one. We talked a lot about the landing pages, what you should do, but then the stuff that we dropped on the whole what's happening now with content creation and AI. Look, Terminator days are coming, so you may as well take advantage of the benefits of things, because this has a way to spiral out of control. So reap the rewards now before we have the T1000 coming after us.
Awesome.
All right, so we're at time. That's 30 minutes.
Let's do it.
All right, guys. Talk to you guys next week.
Rock and roll.